There comes a point in life when you look around and realize that the applause you've been waiting for may never come. The likes, the claps, the compliments, the nods you thought would finally make you feel whole remain elusive. And even when they do arrive, they dissolve quickly, like mist touched by morning sunlight. I want to ask you something. What if the approval you've been chasing isn't worth a single ounce of your time? What if the real breakthrough is not out there, but in here? This is not another motivational pep talk. It's not about hype and it's not about momentary inspiration. What I want to share with you today is something deeper, an ancient wisdom tested across centuries, lived by emperors and exiles, philosophers, and ordinary men and women alike. Stoicism. Stoicism teaches us one simple truth that's hard to digest in a world addicted to validation. Your worth does not depend on what others think. It depends on how faithfully you live in accordance with your own values. So, in this video, I want to walk you through why constantly chasing external validation leaves you empty, how Stoic philosophy can ground you in unshakable self-approval, and most importantly, how you can start applying this wisdom in practical ways today in your own life. Section 1. The Trap of External Validation. Let's be honest. We've all been there. You post something online and keep checking your phone for likes. You finish a project at work but feel uneasy until your boss praises you. You put effort into relationships but secretly wonder whether the other person notices. This constant craving for approval is exhausting, and yet we continue to feed it. Why? Because deep down, many of us have internalized the idea that our value must be proven to others before it can be real to ourselves. The problem is this: external validation is like quicksand. The more you struggle in it, the deeper you sink. Even when people do notice you, their attention is temporary. The applause that feels good for one moment fades, leaving you hungry for the next fix. Psychologists today even describe this as a dopamine loop, similar to addiction. Each like, each compliment gives a small hit of pleasure, but it never lasts, and soon you're searching for the next one. Now, this is not just a modern problem. Ancient Stoics like Seneca warned against exactly this trap nearly 2,000 years ago. He argued that tying your happiness to other people's opinions makes you a slave to forces beyond your control. If someone praises you, you're happy. If they criticize you, you collapse. You've handed them the keys to your emotional well-being. Think about it. Should someone else's fleeting perspective really carry more weight than your lived experience, your values, your effort? When you pause to reflect, the absurdity becomes clear. And yet we often continue playing the same game, even when we know it drains us. Section 2, Stoicism's Radical Reframe. So, how do we break free? This is where Stoicism enters, not as a lofty, abstract philosophy, but as a deeply practical way of living. At its heart, Stoicism teaches one principle that can transform your relationship with validation. You have power over your mind, not over outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, reminding himself daily that his peace should not depend on applause or scorn. The Stoics believe that virtue, living with integrity, wisdom, courage, and justice, is the only thing that truly matters. Everything else, wealth, fame, reputation, is indifferent. That doesn't mean they're worthless, but it does mean they are secondary. They can't give you real happiness. When you stop measuring your life by likes, claps, or nods of approval and start measuring it by whether you acted with virtue, something shifts. You stop outsourcing your worth. You reclaim your freedom. Seneca once wrote, "He who seeks approval is not free. He lives by another man's judgment." In other words, every time you wait for someone else to confirm your value, you put your life on pause. You wait for permission to be who you already are. Section 3. Why external validation feels so addictive. But let's slow down and ask, why do we keep falling for the same trap? Why is it so hard to detach? Part of the answer is biological. Human beings are social creatures. For most of history, belonging to a tribe meant survival. Being rejected by the group could mean death. So our brains evolved to care deeply about what others think. But here's the problem. What was once a survival mechanism has turned into a prison. In the digital age, every interaction is amplified. Social media gives us instant metrics on our worth. Follower counts, like buttons, shares. These numbers may feel objective, but they're not. They are shallow, fluctuating, and often manipulated by algorithms. The Stoics, if alive today, would warn us, don't confuse noise for truth. The opinions of the crowd are not a mirror of your soul. They're reflections of their own distractions, desires, and illusions. Here's the hard pill to swallow. Most people aren't thinking about you at all. They're too busy worrying about their own image. Yet we waste countless hours adjusting ourselves to impress them. Section 4, reclaiming your power. So what does it look like to stop playing this game? It begins with a mental shift, understanding that your self-worth is not up for debate. You don't need a round of applause to make your achievements real. Here's a simple exercise. At the end of each day, instead of asking, did anyone notice what I did? Ask yourself, did my actions align with my values? That small shift in question changes everything. Suddenly, your focus is inward, not outward. Your measure of success is not how many people clapped, but whether you lived according to your principles. For me personally, this exercise was life-changing. I used to obsess over whether others recognized my effort, but when I began reflecting quietly, writing down what I did that matched my values, I felt a deeper satisfaction. I no longer needed witnesses to validate progress. The act itself was enough. And ironically, when you live this way, people eventually notice. But by then, it doesn't matter. You're no longer dependent on it. Their applause becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Section 5, the freedom of detachment. Imagine the freedom of no longer needing validation. You write because it clarifies your mind, not because someone will praise it. You work out because you want strength and health, not because someone will notice your physique. You speak the truth because it's right, not because it will earn applause. This detachment is not coldness, it's not indifference to people, it's clarity. It means you no longer confuse your essence with their opinions. The Stoics called this building an inner citadel, a fortified core that no insult, no praise, no wave of public opinion can breach. You still interact with the world, you still care for others, but your foundation is unshakable. Section 6, practical applications, building self-approval. Let's talk about practice. Philosophy is useless without action. How do we actually strengthen our independence from validation? Here are a few Stoic-inspired practices that I've tested personally. Morning reflection. Before the day begins, remind yourself, today I may be ignored, criticized, or misunderstood, but none of this defines me. My task is to act with integrity. This sets expectations. You won't be thrown off when others fail to notice you. Daily journaling. Write down one action each day that aligned with your values. Maybe you kept a promise, practiced patience, or worked diligently. Over time, this builds a private record of progress. No applause required. The mirror ritual. When you look in the mirror, don't just check your appearance. Ask, am I living for me or performing for them? This subtle shift reframes your day before it begins. Redirection of energy. Each time you feel the urge to check for validation, like scrolling for likes, pause. Redirect that energy into something constructive, reading, learning, creating. Over weeks, you'll notice a huge difference in focus. Practicing no. One of the hardest skills is declining requests or expectations that don't align with your values. Start small. Every no to external noise is a yes to your authentic self. Section 7, real-life examples. Let's ground this further with examples. At work, instead of obsessing over whether your boss praises you, focus on whether your work met your personal standard of excellence. Recognition may come, but even if it doesn't, your integrity remains intact. In relationships, instead of bending yourself into shapes just to be liked, ask, am I showing up as my authentic self? If the answer is yes, then rejection is not a loss, it's a filter. On social media, instead of chasing numbers, use platforms as a creative outlet. Share what matters to you, not what you think will trend. If one person resonates deeply, that may be more valuable than 1,000 empty likes. Section 8, resilience, turning setbacks into strength. Here's a hard truth. When you stop living for approval, life doesn't suddenly become easy. If anything, it becomes harder. Why? Because instead of drifting with the crowd, you start walking against the current. You'll face misunderstanding. People may criticize you. Some will even resent you for no longer needing their validation. And this is where Stoicism shows its full power. It teaches us that setbacks are not obstacles. They are training grounds. Epictetus, who was once a slave, put it this way, Difficulties show what men are. He believed that life tests us not to break us, but to reveal the strength already inside us. Think about it. If your self-worth depends only on others' applause, then the first criticism will crush you. But if your worth is rooted in your values, then criticism becomes a chance to practice resilience. You no longer ask, why me? Instead, you ask, what can this moment teach me? Section 9, the virtues as anchors. The Stoics taught that real strength comes from 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Let's break these down and see how they help you focus on yourself. Wisdom, the ability to see clearly. Wisdom helps you separate what you can control from what you cannot. It stops you from wasting energy on gossip, trends, or opinions that don't matter. Courage, the willingness to act even when you feel fear. Courage means you can step into the world as your authentic self, even if others don't approve. Justice, living fairly, with integrity. Justice keeps you grounded in the truth that your actions are not just about you, they affect the world. You don't seek validation, but you do seek to contribute rightly. Temperance, the discipline of balance. Temperance protects you from overindulgence in praise, recognition, or success. It reminds you, too much of anything, even approval, can corrupt. When you focus on these virtues, your measure of success shifts. The question is no longer, did they notice me, but did I live with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance today? Section 10, facing criticism without fear. Here's a practical test of self-mastery. How do you respond when someone criticizes you? Most of us either collapse, internalizing their words as proof of our unworthiness, or we explode in anger, desperately defending our image. The Stoic approach is different. Marcus Aurelius advised himself, if it is true, correct yourself. If it is false, laugh at it. That's it. If criticism reveals something real, use it as feedback. Improve. If it's false, why waste energy? Let it pass like wind. This doesn't mean you become unbothered in a fake, robotic way. It means you train yourself to see criticism as information, not as a verdict on your worth. I once received a harsh comment online that initially stung, but when I looked at it through a Stoic lens, I realized 2 things. Part of it was valid. It showed me where I could improve. The rest was noise. I took the useful part and discarded the rest. That shift turned pain into growth. Section 11, the discipline of solitude. Another key part of focusing on yourself is learning to be comfortable in solitude. Many people fear being alone because without an audience, they feel invisible. But solitude is not emptiness. It's a forge. It's where you strengthen your inner citadel, away from the noise. Seneca called solitude a chance to become your own friend. When you can sit quietly without needing to broadcast every move, you discover something powerful. You are enough, even when no one is watching. Try this. Spend 1 hour without your phone, without company, without distractions. Journal, walk, reflect. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but over time, it becomes liberating. You learn to enjoy your own presence, and that's one of the strongest forms of freedom. Section 12, reframing success. One of the biggest traps of external validation is how it distorts success. We're taught to measure success in visible ways: followers, promotions, applause, recognition. But Stoicism asks a different question. Did you live in alignment with your nature? Maybe your success today is resisting anger. Maybe it's showing kindness when no one's around to see it. Maybe it's simply sticking to your routine when you felt like giving up. These victories are invisible, but they're the foundation of greatness. The world may not notice them immediately, but you will. And over time, they compound into something unshakable. The paradox is this: when you stop chasing external success, you often become more successful because your focus shifts to mastery, not performance. Section 13, building the inner audience. Here's a practical idea. Instead of living for the audience outside, build an inner audience, a select few voices you respect deeply, even if they're not alive anymore. For the Stoics, that inner audience might include Socrates, Zeno, or Cato. For you, it might include a mentor, a loved one, or even the ideal version of yourself. Each day, ask yourself, would this action earn the respect of my inner audience? When you start living this way, the faceless crowd loses its grip. The opinions of thousands of strangers online mean little compared to the quiet approval of the wise voices you've chosen to guide your life. Section 14, community without dependency. Now, focusing on yourself doesn't mean isolation or arrogance. The Stoics weren't hermits. They believed in contributing to society. But here's the key: they valued community without being dependent on it for validation. Marcus Aurelius wrote that human beings are made for cooperation, like hands or feet. We thrive together. But he also warned against letting the opinions of the crowd dictate our path. You can care for others deeply, serve them well, and still maintain your independence. That's the balance. Love without attachment, service without slavery. Section 15, training the mind. Daily self-mastery isn't built overnight. It's a daily practice. The Stoics treated philosophy like training for the soul. Just as athletes train their bodies, philosophers train their minds. Here are 3 more daily practices worth adding to your life. Negative visualization. Imagine losing what you take for granted: your health, your loved ones, your freedom. This is not to make you depressed, but to make you grateful. It teaches you that life itself is enough. Amor fati, love your fate. Don't just accept events, embrace them. If something difficult happens, say, good, this too is part of my story. It shifts you from resistance to resilience. Memento mori, remember death. This practice doesn't make life bleak, it makes it urgent. If today were your last, would you still waste time chasing approval? Section 16, the paradox of attention. Here's the irony: when you stop craving validation, people often start noticing you more. Why? Because self-possession is magnetic. Think about it. The most compelling people are those who don't beg for attention. They move with quiet confidence. They don't need to shout because their presence speaks louder than words. This is the paradox. When you stop chasing attention and focus on building substance, attention often comes anyway. But by then, you no longer need it. Section 17, the mirror metaphor revisited. Let's return to the mirror we discussed earlier. Most of us look into the mirror hoping to see someone impressive enough to win approval. But the Stoic mirror is different. It asks one question only: am I living with integrity? If the answer is yes, then the reflection is enough. No applause needed, no spotlight required. And here's the deeper truth: when you learn to approve of yourself, your mirror becomes clear. And when others see you living with that clarity, they notice. But not because you begged them to. They notice because authenticity shines brighter than performance. Section 18, closing reflections. Let's bring it all together. Focusing on yourself until the focus is you is not about arrogance, selfishness, or isolation. It's about building a foundation so strong that no wave of public opinion can shake it. It's about learning that your worth was never up for negotiation. It was always within you, waiting to be recognized by the only person who truly matters: yourself. The Stoics remind us you can't control whether people clap. You can't control whether they notice, but you can control whether you live with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. That's the real focus. That's the unshakable life. So the next time you feel the urge to chase approval, pause. Ask yourself, am I living in alignment with my values? If the answer is yes, then you are already enough. Focus on you until the focus is you. And when it finally happens, you'll realize the spotlight was never the goal. The goal was always the inner light that can never be dimmed.